Welcome to today's deep dive. It's so great to have you with us.
Really glad to be here.
So, if you've ever found yourself just staring at your laptop screen
Yeah.
at the end of a long, totally exhausting day,
Oh, we've all been there.
right, just rubbing your eyes and wondering where on earth all your time went, you are definitely not alone.
Not at all.
Because if you've ever had that sinking feeling where you absolutely know, you were incredibly busy for 8 straight hours.
But you can't actually point to a single piece of meaningful progress.
Exactly. You just can't find it. If
Yeah.
that sounds like you, then you are in exactly the right place today.
Yeah, it's a very universal feeling right now.
Today, we are exploring a core theme that affects nearly all of us in the modern world. And that is the profound and honestly incredibly confusing difference between merely being active and actually making real, tangible progress.
It really is a distinction that defines the modern workplace, isn't it?
It really does.
And yet it's something we so rarely stop to analyze.
We just do it.
Right. We just wake up, check our phones, and immediately start running on the treadmill. We assume that as long as we're sweating and moving, we must be getting somewhere.
But usually, we aren't.
No, we're just tired.
Exactly. And to figure out how to finally step off that endless treadmill, we have assembled a massive stack of sources for today's deep dive.
It's a really great collection today.
We're looking at comprehensive articles on neuropsychology, renowned productivity frameworks.
And you've probably heard of some of these, like the Eisenhower Matrix.
Right, or the Pareto principle.
Yeah,
But we are going to look at the massive traps hidden inside them.
because they can definitely backfire.
You really can. We also have some truly fascinating behavioral research from the Journal of Consumer Research.
That study is mind-blowing.
It is. And on top of that, we've pulled insights from some of the leading thinkers on this topic.
Like Greg McKeown.
Yes, who wrote Essentialism.
And James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits.
Plus a lot of practical, everyday strategies from clinical productivity experts.
It's a wonderfully comprehensive stack of material today.
It is.
And what's remarkable is that whether we are looking at the hard neuroscience of how your brain metabolizes glucose or the psychological theories behind behavioral economics,
It all points to the same thing.
it does. It all points toward a very specific shared phenomenon. Our goal today is to synthesize all of this seemingly disparate research to explain the underlying mechanisms of our own daily behavior.
We want to look under the hood.
Exactly, the hood of human productivity.
Right. Because the mission of this deep dive is to help you understand exactly why your brain constantly tricks you into low-leverage, exhausting busy work.
And it is a trick.
It's a total trick. We're going to explore how our own avoidance behaviors masterfully masquerade as productivity.
That's the scariest part.
Yeah, and most importantly, how you can rewire your daily habits to achieve high-impact outcomes without burning yourself out in the process.
Which is what everyone actually wants.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yes.
Starting with the cultural water we are all currently swimming in.
The
Right. Because before we blame our biology, we have to talk about exhaustion as a status symbol.
This is such a crucial starting point because it is a relatively new phenomenon in the grand span of human history.
Really? It feels like it's always been this way.
It feels that way, but it hasn't. The research outlined in the 2040 digital article in our stack points out a massive, almost completely inverted cultural shift.
Inverted how?
Well, if you look historically specifically, going back to the theories of economist Thorstein Veblen in the late 19th century,
Okay.
he coined the concept of the leisure class.
Right, I've heard that term.
For the vast majority of human civilization, wealth and high status were demonstrated through conspicuous non-work.
Non-work.
Right. Having free time, having leisure, meant you were important. You showed off your status by visibly doing nothing.
Wait, so literally the ultimate flex used to be showing your neighbors that you didn't have to lift a finger.
Precisely.
Yeah.
If you had calluses on your hands or a packed schedule, it meant you were at the bottom of the social hierarchy. But today, that paradigm has entirely inverted.
Completely flipped.
High human capital individuals, executives, entrepreneurs, leading creatives.
Yeah.
They now wear chronic busyness, packed calendars, and constant overwork as absolute badges of honor.
It is so true. Think about the last time you asked a colleague or a friend how they were doing.
Right.
What is the default answer?
I'm just so busy right now.
Yes, or I am slammed.
Things are just crazy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's almost like we are subtly competing to see who is the most overwhelmed.
Because being overwhelmed equates to being important.
But why? Why do we actively do this to ourselves when it makes us miserable?
It comes down to what the researchers in the stat call the activity achievement confusion,
Okay.
and it is a direct byproduct of the shift to knowledge work. You see, we do this because constant motion is highly visible.
And incredibly easy to measure.
Right. You can easily quantify the hours you sat at your desk.
You can log the hours.
You can count the number of emails you sent, the sheer volume of Zoom meetings you attended, the lines of code you committed.
Right, I can point to a spreadsheet and say, look, I updated 400 rows today. I am valuable.
Exactly. But actual achievement things like deep strategic thinking
Solving a complex logistical problem.
or innovating a new product, that is entirely invisible.
You can't see someone thinking.
It's much harder to quantify an hour spent just staring out the window thinking about a long-term strategy.
Boss would just think I was daydreaming.
Exactly. And because organizations and even we as individuals struggle to measure the invisible value of deep thought, we default to measuring the visible output of physical activity.
We substitute motion for meaning.
That's a great way to put it.
And the illusion we create for ourselves is incredibly powerful.
It really is.
But there is a staggering statistic in the sources that completely shatters this illusion of the super productive 10-hour workday.
This stat is brutal.
It really is.
Yeah.
The researchers analyzed knowledge workers in the UK and found that they are actually productive for only 2 hours and 53 minutes a day.
Just let that sink in.
I really want to. Out of an 8, 9, or sometimes 10-hour workday, less than 3 hours are spent on genuine productive output.
It's a sobering reality check.
Less than 3 hours. But if they are only actually productive for under 3 hours, what on earth are they doing for the other 5 or 6 hours while still feeling totally exhausted by 5 p.m.?
They are performing the visibility of work.
Reformative work.
They are attending meetings that don't require their presence. They are constantly checking communication channels. They are formatting documents that no one will read.
Just to look busy.
They are maintaining the optical illusion of busyness.
Wow.
And if you contrast that modern reality with the anthropological data in our stack.
The stuff about the hunter-gatherers?
Right. Regarding contemporary hunter-gatherer societies, the contrast is jarring.
What did they find?
Anthropologists found that these societies only work about 4 to 5 hours a day.
4 to 5 hours.
And that includes ample leisure time for music, ceremonies, childcare, and social activities.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here.
Go for it.
It's easy to look at hunter-gatherers and say, wow, 4 hours. Sounds great.
Right.
But we live in a globally connected, hyper-competitive economy. My boss isn't going to accept me logging off at 1 p.m. to go play music.
No, probably not.
So, is comparing ourselves to hunter-gatherers actually useful? Or is it just a nice fantasy?
That is the exact right question to ask. The point of the comparison isn't to suggest we can instantly adopt a 4-hour workday in a corporate environment.
Okay, good.
The point is to highlight that we have constructed a modern reality of the 10-hour frantic workday.
Yeah.
But biologically and historically, it is a complete anomaly.
We aren't built for it.
Exactly.
Right.
Our bodies and brains did not evolve for 10 hours of sustained cognitive output.
That makes a lot of sense.
The comparison proves that we are pushing ourselves far beyond our natural biological capacities for sustained effort.
So we just hit a wall.
And because we physically cannot do 10 hours of deep work, we inevitably fill the massive void with performative motion.
So we're basically padding our timesheets to match an arbitrary societal expectation, but our brains are paying the price.
A heavy price.
Which means I have to ask you, the listener, have you ever reached 5 p.m. feeling completely drained, completely tapped out?
Just exhausted.
But if someone asked you what you did today, you couldn't name a single meaningful thing you accomplished.
It happens all the time.
You sent a lot of messages, you moved some rows on a spreadsheet, but nothing actually moved forward.
Right.
It's terrifying to realize we do this to ourselves socially. But what I found even wilder in the sources is how our physical biology actually encourages this trap.
The neuroscience is fascinating.
Let's dive into that. The neuroscience of this busyness trap.
What's fascinating here is how our brain's ancient reward system has effectively been hijacked by the modern work environment.
Hijacked?
To understand why we choose busy work, we have to look closely at dopamine.
The pleasure chemical.
Well, it's often called the pleasure chemical, but in reality, it is a neurotransmitter that reinforces goal-directed behavior.
Okay, so it rewards us for doing things.
It's the chemical of anticipation and reward. But here is the critical catch that the neuropsychology articles point out.
What's that?
The brain's reward circuitry does not care about the strategic value of a task.
It doesn't care if it's important.
Not at all. It only cares about the completion of a task.
So if I spend 45 minutes perfectly color-coding a project management timeline that nobody else on my team even knows exists,
Yes.
my brain gives me the exact same dopamine hit as if I had just finished writing the executive summary that my CEO asked for.
Chemically speaking, yes.
That is wild.
The brain heavily favors immediate gratification.
Because it's easier.
From an evolutionary standpoint, it leans into short-term thinking over delayed rewards. Because in the ancient world, immediate survival was all that mattered.
Finding the berries today, not planting an orchard for next year.
Exactly. Difficult, high-impact tasks like writing a book, developing a new software architecture, or overhauling a company culture.
Yeah.
They usually take a long time to complete. That means the dopamine reward is massively delayed.
And my brain doesn't want to wait 3 months for a hit of dopamine.
Exactly. But sending a quick 2-sentence email,
Instant dopamine.
reorganizing your computer desktop into neat little folders,
Instant dopamine.
deleting spam from your inbox,
Instant dopamine.
your brain actively trains you to crave these small, immediate wins. It reinforces low-leverage busyness because it feels chemically rewarding in the exact moment you are doing it.
You were essentially self-medicating with busy work.
That is exactly what it is.
Okay, so dopamine explains why I love checking off the easy stuff. But what is happening when I actually do try to do the hard stuff?
The deep work.
Yeah, why does staring at a complex strategic planning document literally make me feel physically exhausted after an hour?
That comes down to the prefrontal cortex.
The front of the brain.
Right, this is the part of your brain located right behind your forehead. And it is responsible for executive function, complex reasoning, decision-making, and deep focus.
So it's the heavy lifter.
It is, and the sources highlight that the prefrontal cortex is an absolute energy hog.
It burns a lot of fuel.
When you are engaging in deep, meaningful work, you are rapidly draining the brain's local supply of glucose.
So I am literally burning through my brain's fuel tank.
Yes. And biologically, maximum human focus on a complex task only lasts about 60 to 90 minutes before that fuel tank runs critically low.
Only 60 to 90 minutes.
That's the limit.
I love the analogy we can use here to make this tangible. Deep work is like sprinting, while busy work is like taking a slow, meandering walk.
It's a perfect analogy.
You can't sprint for 8 hours straight. It is physically impossible. Even an Olympic athlete sprints for maybe 10 seconds at a time.
That's exactly right. After that 60 to 90-minute window of cognitive sprinting, a specific neuropeptide in your brain called orexin begins to significantly drop.
Orexin, what does that do?
Orexin regulates your wakefulness and alertness, so that drops. And simultaneously, a neurochemical called adenosine begins to build up.
Adenosine.
Adenosine is a byproduct of cellular energy consumption. It is literally the chemical that makes you feel sleepy and fatigued.
It's the pressure to sleep.
It's the biological pressure for rest.
Is that adenosine buildup the literal brain fog I feel hitting me like a ton of bricks at 2 p.m.?
That is exactly what that is. It's your brain screaming for a recovery period.
So I should listen to it.
You should. But instead of resting, when we hit that biological wall, instead of taking a walk or closing our eyes or just letting our minds wander,
I feel guilty.
we feel guilty that we aren't working. So we pivot to busy work. We start slowly walking.
We enter emails.
We format documents. We clear out Slack messages. We keep moving to satisfy the cultural demand for busyness, but we aren't sprinting anymore.
We are just burning time.
Exactly.
And what makes this even worse is how we don't even let ourselves sprint for the full 60 minutes.
No, we interrupt ourselves constantly.
We really do. Let's address the massive myth of multitasking here. Because I see job descriptions all the time that still ask for excellent multitaskers.
Oh, it's everywhere.
But the research in our stack says that is a complete biological fiction.
It is entirely a fiction. The human brain, specifically that prefrontal cortex we just discussed, does not process complex cognitive tasks simultaneously.
It literally can't.
It cannot. What it actually does is rapid toggle.
Rapid toggle.
It switches back and forth between tasks at lightning speed, and every single time it switches, it incurs what neuroscientists call a cognitive tax.
Tax on my brain power.
The American Psychological Association notes that this rapid context switching can reduce your overall productivity by up to 40%.
Wait, 40%.
40%.
I am almost cutting my effectiveness in half just by having my email inbox open on a second monitor while I try to write a report.
Yes. because part of your brain is constantly monitoring that inbox, diverting glucose and attention away from the report.
Wow.
And the University of California study in our sources puts a very specific, frankly terrifying number on the cost of this toggling.
How bad is it?
They found that it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to fully regain deep focus after a single interruption.
23 minutes.
15 seconds.
So if a coworker pops their head in and says, hey, quick question, do you have 2 minutes? It doesn't cost me 2 minutes.
No.
It costs me 25 minutes.
Exactly. That is the true hidden penalty of context switching.
That is brutal.
Now, let's connect that 23-minute recovery time with another data point from the stack. The average knowledge worker faces roughly 160 weekly distractions
160.
and spends 28% of their entire week just managing and sorting email.
Oh, wow. When you do the math on that.
Right. When you do the math, deep work is being systematically eradicated from the modern schedule.
You literally can't get anything done.
If you are interrupted every 15 minutes, but it takes 23 minutes to achieve deep focus, you are constantly in a state of cognitive recovery.
You never actually reach the depth required for high-impact achievement.
You are permanently trapped in the shallows.
It's no wonder we feel exhausted but unproductive. We are running a mental obstacle course all day, paying a 40% cognitive tax, and burning out our prefrontal cortex for the sake of cheap dopamine.
It's a rough cycle.
But here's the thing. It's not just our chaotic office environment or our boss distracting us. Very often, we are doing it to ourselves on purpose.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about avoidance behavior disguised as productivity. Because sometimes we actively use work to avoid doing actual work.
This is a crucial psychological distinction, and it requires profound self-honesty to recognize.
It really does.
We have to look at James Clear's concept from his best-selling book, Atomic Habits. He differentiates very clearly between two concepts: motion and action.
Motion versus action.
Right. Motion consists of planning, strategizing, researching, and learning. Action is the behavior that actually delivers the specific outcome.
Okay, let me make sure I have this straight.
Okay.
So motion is me sitting at my kitchen table, outlining 20 brilliant ideas for articles I want to write, and color-coding my content calendar.
Yes.
Action is me actually opening a blank document, typing out one article, and hitting publish.
Precisely. Motion is researching the absolute best marathon training plans, buying new running shoes, and listening to a podcast about hydration.
I feel attacked.
Action is putting on the shoes and running 3 miles.
I am so guilty of this. Buying the website domain name instead of actually writing the code for the business.
We all do it.
But why do we prefer motion? If we know action gets the result, why is motion so seductive?
Because motion makes us feel like we are making progress while acting as a psychological shield.
A shield from what?
It protects us from the risk of failure, from public judgment, and from rejection.
Ah, of course.
If you are just researching your business plan, nobody can reject your business because it doesn't exist yet.
Right.
If you are just outlining your book in a private notebook, nobody can leave a scathing 1-star review.
It's perfectly safe.
Motion allows you to feel productive. It gives you that dopamine hit of working on a project while safely hiding in the planning phase indefinitely.
That perfectly connects to this concept in the stack of being productively unproductive, which was detailed in the piece from Coaction Health.
Yes, that's a great piece.
They make a fascinating argument that procrastination is not about laziness at all. And I think that's a huge relief for a lot of people to hear.
It is.
They argue it is fundamentally an emotional regulation issue.
It is a radical reframing of how we view ourselves.
It really changes things.
We typically think we avoid tasks because we are lazy or undisciplined, but the research suggests we avoid the task because we're trying to avoid the negative emotions associated with the task.
Like what kind of emotions?
It could be the discomfort of not knowing how to start, the anxiety of a looming deadline, the fear of failure, or, and this is often the most surprising to people, the fear of success.
Let's pause on that because fear of failure makes total sense.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to look stupid.
Right.
But why on earth would we be afraid of success? Isn't that what we are all working toward?
Consciously, yes. But the fear of success is a profound, unconscious driver of self-sabotage.
Unconscious.
You have to understand that achieving a major goal means change. It inherently brings new responsibilities, higher expectations from your peers, and much greater visibility.
Things change.
And the primitive part of our brain, the amygdala, views any major change to the status quo as a potential threat to our survival, even if logically it is a highly positive change.
So my brain is essentially saying, if you get promoted, you'll have more stress, people will expect more from you, and you might fail at that higher level. Let's just stay right here where it's safe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, to regulate that unconscious fear, we become productively unproductive. We find incredibly vital-looking tasks to do that conveniently prevent us from crossing the finish line of the scary task.
The sources have some painfully relatable examples of this.
Oh, they do.
Reformatting a 50-page slide deck for internal use just to make the margins perfect, instead of actually finalizing the data analysis that the board is waiting for.
Very common.
Endlessly organizing your email inbox into beautifully nested, color-coded folders instead of actually typing out the reply to that one difficult, confrontational email sitting at the top.
We use organization as a defense mechanism.
Or even in our personal lives. Picking fights with a partner right when the relationship is going incredibly well.
Yes.
It is a deeply ingrained protection mechanism.
And that psychological reality leads directly to a brilliant concept from Gay Hendricks called the upper limit problem.
The upper limit problem.
Hendricks posits that every single individual has an internal, unconscious threshold, a thermostat, if you will, for how much success, love, wealth, or happiness they genuinely believe they deserve or can safely handle.
So we all have an invisible ceiling hovering over our heads.
Yes. And when we hit that invisible ceiling, when things are going better than our internal thermostat is set for, we experience a spike in unconscious anxiety.
Because it feels unnatural.
Right. To alleviate that anxiety, we unconsciously self-sabotage to bring ourselves back down to our comfortable, familiar baseline of struggle.
We pull ourselves back down.
Quitting a project right before a major breakthrough, getting sick right before a huge presentation, or suddenly finding flaws in a great relationship are classic symptoms of hitting your upper limit.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
We have all these internal fears, these upper limits, and this desire for emotional regulation. But how does the external world manipulate those internal fears? Specifically, how do the deadlines imposed by our bosses and our calendars mess with our psychology? Let's look at the mere urgency effect and the Zeigarnik effect.
The mere urgency effect is a deeply counterintuitive psychological quirk documented in a fascinating study published in the Journal of Consumer Research.
What did the study show?
Across multiple rigorous experiments, researchers presented participants with different tasks. They found that people will reliably and completely irrationally choose to complete urgent tasks with lower payouts over important tasks with much greater rewards.
Wait, let me understand this.
Sure.
Even if I logically know that task A will give me a $100 reward, but it doesn't have a deadline,
Right.
I will choose task B, which only gives a $10 reward, simply because task B has a deadline of 5 p.m. today.
Exactly.
That makes no economic sense.
None at all. Even when researchers explicitly controlled for normative reasons, meaning they removed any logical justification to pick the urgent task, our attention is still magnetically drawn to the ticking clock.
The ticking clock.
The urgency itself creates a palpable psychological discomfort. It feels like an itch.
And we just want to scratch it.
Completing the urgent, low-value task relieves that discomfort. We are literally willing to sacrifice our long-term advancement and greater rewards just to soothe the anxiety of a deadline.
It's like our brains are just magnetically pulled to the fire alarm, even if the fire is in a trash can and our house is getting robbed behind us.
That's a great visual.
And the sources note that this effect is even more pronounced in people who self-identify as busy.
That is the tragic irony.
Why is that?
Being chronically busy actually degrades your cognitive ability to prioritize effectively. It locks you into a reactive state where you can only see the ticking clock, creating a vicious cycle of low-value urgency.
But there's another major psychological phenomenon at play here that keeps us stressed out and prioritizing the wrong things.
The Zeigarnik effect.
Yes, the Zeigarnik effect. And I love the origin story of this one because it goes all the way back to 1927.
A long time ago.
A Lithuanian psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik was sitting in a bustling restaurant in Berlin, just observing the waitstaff.
Okay.
And she noticed they had this incredible, almost superhuman ability to remember massive, complex orders for large tables without writing a single thing down.
Pretty standard for good waiters.
Right. But the very second the bill was paid and the transaction was closed, they instantly forgot the entire order.
Instantly.
If you asked them what the table had 5 minutes later, Their minds were blank.
It was a groundbreaking observation of human memory that led to rigorous laboratory testing.
What did you find?
Zygarnik discovered that the human brain remembers interrupted or unfinished tasks approximately 90% better than tasks that have been completed.
90% better.
When you start a task, it creates a psychological tension, what psychologists call an open loop in your working memory.
An open loop.
The brain actively prioritizes this incomplete pattern, constantly dedicating background cognitive resources to it, refusing to let it go until closure is formally achieved.
So that is exactly why when you confidently close your laptop at 5 p.m. on a Friday, but you leave a major project half finished, or an email drafted but unsent, your brain absolutely refuses to let you enjoy your evening.
It won't let it go.
You're trying to watch a movie or eat dinner with your family, and your brain just keeps aggressively surfacing that half-finished report.
Precisely. The loop is open, and the brain is demanding closure.
It wants the loop closed.
And the problem is that in today's digital knowledge work environment, we are not just dealing with one unfinished order like a waiter.
No.
We are dealing with dozens, sometimes hundreds, of open loops simultaneously.
Sure.
An unread email in your peripheral vision, a Slack message you mentally promised to reply to later, a project sitting at 80% completion, a tab open on your browser that you want to read.
Just tabs upon tabs.
Research indicates that holding 4 or more concurrent unfinished tasks significantly depletes your willpower and severely fragments your attention.
Just 4 tasks.
Just 4 is enough to drain you.
And the physiological toll of holding all these loops open is wild. There's a study in the Journal of Occupational Health Psychology that tracked employees and found that having a high volume of unfinished tasks at the end of the week significantly spiked their cortisol levels.
The primary stress hormone.
Yes, and it absolutely ruined their sleep quality over the weekend through constant, uncontrollable rumination.
You're just thinking about work all night.
The open loops physically prevent the physiological downregulation you need to recover. You are essentially staying in a low-grade fight-or-flight state all weekend.
It's incredibly damaging to our long-term health.
Uh-huh.
But, as with many of these psychological quirks we've discussed today, once you understand the underlying mechanism, you can begin to hack it.
Yes, the silver lining.
Yeah.
Because you don't just have to be a victim of the Zygarnik effect.
You can use it.
You can actually weaponize it to beat procrastination.
Which is brilliant.
The sources call this the 10-minute rule. Tell me if this makes sense. If I am dreading a massive, terrifying task, let's say doing my taxes won't, starting it and stopping in a loop, just create an open loop that makes me more stressed out.
You would think so, but here is where it becomes a superpower.
Okay, tell me.
If you are paralyzed by procrastination, the goal isn't to commit to finishing the massive task.
Right.
Because that triggers the fear of failure we talked about earlier.
Upper limit problem.
Exactly. The hack is to commit to working on the dreaded task for exactly 10 minutes, with the explicit permission to quit after the timer goes off.
Okay, so I set a timer for 10 minutes and open the tax software.
Right. And here is what happens. Getting started is always the hardest part because of the emotional friction.
It's awful.
But once you start, you artificially create that open Zygarnik loop. The psychological tension kicks in.
Okay.
When the 10-minute timer goes off, you might stop, but your brain is now hooked on the incomplete pattern.
Because it's an open loop now.
The tension actually motivates you to return and finish the task because your brain now craves the dopamine release of closure.
You have effectively turned avoidance into deep engagement simply by tricking your brain into opening a loop.
You're using the tension to pull you forward.
It's a brilliant strategy.
Yeah.
It lowers the barrier to entry, so you bypass the fear of failure,
Right.
and it utilizes our innate biological drive for completion.
It works incredibly well.
Okay, so we know our brains are fighting against us with cheap dopamine hits, the mere urgency effect pulling us toward ticking clocks, and the Zygarnik effect keeping us stressed.
It's a tough battle.
How do we fight back on a larger scale? We need systems.
We do.
Let's look at frameworks for cognitive prioritization. How do we systematically sort the noise from the signal?
The foundational gold standard here, which most people have encountered but very few correctly apply, is the Eisenhower matrix.
The Eisenhower matrix.
Named after U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, who is historically legendary for his productivity and ability to manage global crises without burning out.
Right.
It's a visual framework for sorting every task on your plate into 4 quadrants based on 2 distinct metrics: urgency and importance.
Right, and most of us know the basics.
Yeah.
Quadrant 1 is urgent and important.
The crises.
These are the real crises. The house is on fire, things with immediate hard deadlines.
Yes.
Quadrant 2 is not urgent but important. This is the strategic planning, the relationship building, the deep work, your health.
The essential stuff.
Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. The interruptions, the unnecessary meetings, the coworker popping in.
The noise.
And quadrant 4 is not urgent and not important. Mindless scrolling, sheer time wasting.
Yes, that is the structure. And Stephen Covey, who popularized this matrix in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, reframed these quadrants beautifully.
How did he reframe them?
He labeled quadrant 3 the quadrant of distraction.
Which is the urgent but not important stuff.
Exactly. And he labeled quadrant 2 the quadrant of effectiveness.
Is important but not urgent.
The ultimate goal for any professional or individual is to spend as much time as humanly possible living in quadrant 2.
But the SAC highlights a massive trap we all fall into here.
A huge trap.
It's incredibly hard to live in quadrant 2 because quadrant 2 has absolutely no deadlines.
None.
Nobody is screaming at you to do your long-term strategic planning. Nobody is blowing up your phone demanding that you spend an hour meditating or exercising.
Right.
But people are always screaming at you from quadrant 3.
Exactly. And because of the mere urgency effect we discussed earlier, we allow the urgent, unimportant tasks of quadrant 3 to constantly hijack our attention.
We treat other people's emergencies as our own priorities.
We really do.
Yep.
Which is why, to make the Eisenhower matrix actually work, we have to integrate it with the Pareto principle.
The Pareto principle, commonly known as the 80-20 rule,
Yes.
developed by the Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto.
Right. He originally observed that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the population.
Okay.
But this unequal distribution applies to almost everything. The principle states that roughly 80% of consequences come from 20% of the causes.
So how does that apply to work?
In a modern professional context, 80% of your meaningful results, your promotions, your actual impact, comes from just 20% of your daily efforts.
Just 20%.
The great challenge of productivity is identifying your specific vital 20% and ruthlessly placing those tasks squarely in quadrant 2 of your Eisenhower matrix, protecting them at all costs.
And to protect them, you have to get incredibly comfortable with making people uncomfortable.
We do.
You have to get ruthless about saying no. Which brings us to Greg McKeown's concept of essentialism. McKeown defines essentialism as the disciplined pursuit of less.
The disciplined pursuit of less.
It is about completely rejecting the modern cultural assumption that we can have it all, or I have to do everything.
McKeown argues that I have to do everything is a lie that leads directly to mediocrity.
Mediocrity.
You trade that lie in for a new paradigm, doing only the right thing in the right way at exactly the right time.
But it's not just about cleaning out your inbox.
No, essentialism is not merely a time management tactic. It is a fundamental mindset shift. It requires you to acknowledge the reality of trade-offs.
Trade-offs.
Every single time you say yes to a non-essential request, coffee meeting you don't want to go to, an extra project you don't have time for,
Yeah.
you are implicitly saying no to something essential, whether that's your vital 20% project or simply spending time with your family.
Every yes is a no to something else.
Exactly.
But that raises a huge question for the listener. How do you actually know what is essential?
That's the hard part.
You can't prioritize your tasks into an Eisenhower matrix if you don't actually know what your overarching values are.
You need a baseline.
And this connects beautifully to the sources detailing business coach Anna McRae's concept of the life audit.
The life audit is fantastic.
You have to step back, get off the treadmill for a minute, and look at your entire life holistically. Your career, your physical health, your relationships, your finances.
Look at everything.
And clearly define what a level 10 life looks like for you personally.
The life audit is a powerful exercise because it forces you to confront the gap between your current daily actions and your ultimate values.
The gap is usually pretty big.
It is. You have to set specific, bold goals rather than playing small just to meet the societal expectations of the people around you.
The sources give an incredible, highly specific example of this. Anna McRae realized, through conducting her own rigorous life audit, that she didn't actually want the standard societal markers of success.
She wanted something else.
She didn't want the big suburban house, the mortgage, and the corporate promotion that she was supposedly working so hard for. So she executed a massive pivot.
What did she do?
She ended up spending $50,000 to convert a school bus into a tiny home so she could travel the country with her family.
Wow.
Now, that might sound extreme, but the point is that living in a bus aligned with her actual values of freedom and experience rather than what society told her she should value.
She found her level 10.
Once she knew her level 10, it became incredibly easy to say no to the corporate tasks that didn't serve that vision.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, all of these frameworks, the Eisenhower matrix, identifying your vital 20% via the Pareto principle, the disciplined pursuit of essentialism, the radical clarity of a life audit,
Yeah,
they're all essentially defensive tools.
decisive.
They are cognitive weapons designed to defend your mental space against the constant, overwhelming demands of the outside world.
We need that defense.
But conceptual frameworks are only half the battle. You can have the best strategy in the world, but if you can't execute it on a random Tuesday morning, it's useless.
Right.
We have to translate these frameworks into daily habits.
Which perfectly brings us to our final major section, practical strategies for high-impact execution. How do we take all this high-level psychological theory and actually use it tomorrow morning when we log on?
Let's get practical.
Let's start with a concept from productivity expert Cal Newport, which sounds totally counterintuitive at first. Slow productivity.
Slow productivity.
Yeah.
Newport argues quite persuasively that our frantic rushing is actually the enemy of progress.
How so?
The sources indicate that rushing through your work in a state of high anxiety actually extends total task completion time by a massive 27%.
Wait, going faster takes 27% longer?
Yes, because of the cascading
The
consequences.
consequences of rushing.
Rushing inevitably introduces errors, oversights, and miscommunications.
Oh, that makes sense.
That leads to the necessary rework that follows. The apology emails, the secondary meetings to fix the initial mistakes.
You spend all your time fixing things.
If you consciously slow down your pace, you dramatically improve the quality of the initial output and ultimately save yourself massive amounts of time on the back end.
And part of mastering slow productivity is knowing exactly when to stop working.
Knowing when to quit for the day.
There's this fantastic anecdote in the sources about the legendary author Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway had a very specific trick where he would intentionally stop his writing session for the day right in the middle of a sentence.
It seems entirely counterintuitive, doesn't it?
It really does.
If you are an author and you have the thought, why on earth would you stop before you type it out?
Exactly. But he did it so that his brain could unconsciously process the problem overnight.
He was using the psychology.
He left an open Zeigarnik loop on purpose, but a highly manageable one. Because he knew exactly how the sentence was supposed to end, it was incredibly easy and frictionless for him to sit down at his typewriter and resume his work the next morning.
He gave himself an easy start.
He completely eliminated the dread of writer's block by never letting himself finish his thought at the end of the day. He gave his brain an easy win for the next morning.
It's a brilliant, practical utilization of our neurological wiring.
Okay, now let's look at tactics for the listener's actual daily calendar. We hear a lot about time blocking, the practice of scheduling every minute of your day, but the sources recommend a very specific, crucial upgrade.
Results-oriented time blocking.
Yes, because standard time blocking is a trap.
It really can be.
If I just put work on book or do strategic planning on my calendar for 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., what happens?
You waste time figuring it out.
Exactly. When that block starts, my brain spends the first 25 minutes just trying to decide what working on the book actually means today.
You're in motion, not action.
I'm gathering my notes, I'm opening 5 different files, I'm deciding which chapter to read, I'm deep in motion, but I'm taking zero action.
Exactly. You are burning your prefrontal cortex's limited glucose supply just making decisions about how to work.
Just deciding what to do makes me tired.
With results-oriented time blocking, you define the exact, tangible outcome in advance, usually the night before.
So I don't write work on book.
You don't block time to work on the book. You block time to complete a messy first draft of the outline for Chapter 4.
That is so specific.
The brain knows exactly what the finish line looks like the second the clock starts. You completely bypass the decision fatigue and immediately initiate action.
Another incredibly powerful tactic from the sources is utilizing the daily top 3 combined with the concept of eat the frog.
Oh, this is essential.
Think about your standard to-do list right now. If it has 73 items on it, and you view them all as a massive, undifferentiated block of work,
It's overwhelming.
your dopamine-starved brain is instantly going to gravitate toward the easy, low-value busy work.
Because it wants the quick hit.
It's going to find the easiest thing to cross off. If everything is important, nothing is important.
To combat that, you must ruthlessly isolate the three most crucial tasks for the day.
Your top three.
This is your vital 20% in action, and you commit entirely to those. And the concept of eating the frog, popularized by Brian Tracy based on an old Mark Twain quote.
Meaning, do the worst thing first.
Right. It means tackling the hardest, most complex, most dread-inducing task first thing in the morning.
Why in the morning?
You do it when your prefrontal cortex has the maximum amount of glucose and your willpower is at its absolute peak.
So, do not check your email first thing in the morning.
No.
Do not open Slack.
Yeah.
Do not do the easy administrative tasks to warm up because you are just burning your sprint energy on a slow walk.
Eat the frog first.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But what about all the other stuff? We can't just ignore reality. The administrative tasks, the status updates, the expenses, they still have to get done.
That's where externalizing and automating come in to save the day.
Tell me about externalizing.
We spent a lot of time talking about how open Zeigarnik loops ruin your focus and spike your cortisol. You have to write things down.
Get it out of your head.
Stop trying to hold your to-do list in your working memory. Putting tasks into a trusted external system, whether that's an app, a physical planner, or even just a post-it note, gives your brain permission to forget.
Permission to forget. I love that.
It officially closes the Zeigarnik loop because the brain knows the information is safe.
And for all that quadrant 3 busy work.
You either aggressively delegate it or you automate it. Use technology, use AI, use email filters to handle the repetitive, low-value tasks.
So you can fiercely protect your finite human capital for deep, meaningful work.
Finally, we must address the fundamental neurochemical reality of our brains that we started with.
The dopamine.
If we truly want to escape the busyness trap, we need to implement gamification and dopamine management. The brain wants cheap dopamine, and if you don't give it healthy sources, it will seek out busy work to get it.
So how do we give it healthy sources?
To combat that, you can actively gamify your deep work.
Right, like setting a visual timer on your desk, or creating a visual winning streak on a calendar,
Yes.
or taking a massive, intimidating project and intentionally breaking it down into tiny, ridiculous micro-completions.
Micro-completions are great. Give yourself a small, tangible reward like a short walk or a cup of coffee for every micro-completion.
You are essentially hacking your own biology to get dopamine hits from meaningful progress rather than from refreshing your inbox for the 10th time.
Exactly. And the sources point out that you can proactively support your baseline dopamine levels through basic lifestyle choices.
Like getting bright morning sunlight in your eyes within an hour of waking up.
Incorporating daily physical movement.
And even eating tyrosine-rich foods like almonds, avocados, or hard cheeses, which are the biological building blocks of dopamine.
It all connects back to the biology.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring all these threads together.
We've covered a vast, complex landscape today. We started by recognizing the cultural trap we are all caught in.
How modern society has bizarrely elevated exhaustion to a status symbol.
Leading us to confuse frantic, visible motion with actual, invisible achievement.
We then explored the hard neuroscience, seeing exactly how our brain's evolutionary desire for immediate dopamine,
combined with its biological aversion to the cognitive strain of deep work,
naturally pushes us toward low-leverage busy work.
We looked deeply at the psychology of avoidance, how motion protects us from the fear of failure and the fear of success.
And how the mere urgency effect manipulates us into constantly prioritizing ticking clocks over true long-term value.
But we also found hope.
We did. We learned how to use the Zeigarnik effect to our advantage, beating procrastination by simply committing to a 10-minute rule.
And we laid out the strategic frameworks necessary to reclaim our cognitive space.
Using the Eisenhower matrix to filter out distractions.
Applying the Pareto principle to find our vital 20%.
And embracing essentialism to pursue the disciplined pursuit of less.
Escaping the busyness trap takes immense daily courage because society entirely expects us to perform exhaustion.
If you have an empty calendar, people might judge you.
But you now understand the biology and psychology at play, and you have the practical tools to prioritize true impact over mere activity, to intentionally choose effectiveness over distraction.
As we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over on your own today, building on everything we've discussed from the sources.
Think about this.
Imagine a world where your economic and social value was completely 100% decoupled from your visible effort and the hours you logged at a desk.
Just completely decoupled.
If you were truly judged only by the impact of your final outcomes, how much of your current daily routine would simply vanish tomorrow morning?
Probably a lot.
And if all that performative busy work did vanish, what would you actually do with all that beautiful, empty, quiet space?
It is a profound question, and one incredibly worth reflecting on as you look at your calendar for tomorrow.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it helps you reclaim your time, your focus, and your energy. Until next time, take care.